So now, you see, this is kind of bouncing a bit everywhere. So the next thing that I want to be doing is to kind of work on the inversions a bit. So inversions basically mean that you are changing the order of which notes are played. So instead of just having it in the root position, which is standard triad, you can also play it or and back to root. So you have 3 positions for each chord. And this means that you can go from, instead of going to F like this, you can play this in an inversion that just goes like that instead. So your chords goes from C to F way more smoothly and up to G. If you want to go back to C, you can put just like that. So in this case, we want to kind of make these chords not jump around as much. So I'm going to try to collect them together a bit. So I'll take this up an octave. This can stay. I'll take this one down and this one up. Just going to kind of try to get them a bit closer together, because these notes are going to be the same. They're not changing. Now all of a sudden it sounds a little bit better. And you can see they're kind of all in the same area. I'm not going to go too much in depth into inversions right now, but something I recommend that you look up and read more into, because it's really help you understand some of the later techniques and arranging principles that we're going to talk about. Let's listen to what it sounds like now after I've done the inversions of it. Alright, let's do the same thing for the next melody. Let's start with this passage only first. So here, let's just try a few chords. For example, we have C major, which works. Doesn't feel as good of a start. F. Could work, but not really feeling it. Almost feels more of a closing line. That works, but it's not the kind of, that's not the vibe or the emotion I'm going for in this theme. So what I want to do is to use C major, because I want to have this longing, hopeful feeling in it. And this note is kind of a passing note that just resolves into here, just as the first note leads into C. So the C is more important than this one, because this is not going to work. It's more, the C is more relevant because the B is leading into that, and in the downwards motion is kind of leading down to the A. So the A is kind of the note that I'm using as the starting point to find a chord, which in this case probably would be F major. So in this case I have and then same thing again. Now suddenly the F doesn't work as well, because we have a G here. So in this case, you know, we go and choose to do the G major, but that's way too happy for the motion I'm going for as well. I'm going for more of a hopeful, longing kind of piece. So then try the relative minor, and there we go. Suddenly we have and then we have, which basically could be D minor, but I'm gonna use F here, because I want to keep the hopeful feeling going. and this E leads down to the D. So I'm actually going to be using the D minor chord. So that passage might sound something like this. And then it's the same thing repeated again, so I go back to F. And this doesn't really go anywhere. I want to propel it into the next repetition or section. So this time I want to land on another chord that shares D, which is G major. And then back. And so on. So in this case, we have quite simple chords to play with, and we're using the minor chords as like these subtle kind of hints to enhance the emotion that we're going for. So let me record that for you and we'll see where we're at. And at the end there, this is what we call a sus4 chord, where we suspend the fourth, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 of the chord, and resolve it down to the third, which is really nice in these kind of situations. So let's quantize that so we can see it a bit more clearly. So there we go. Now, in this case, I also want to play around with some seventh chords. So, as you might remember from the basics, a seventh chord basically means that we have another third from the last third of the chord. So we just keep stacking them like this. And as you can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is an F major 7 chord. This is D minor 7. A minor 7. Back to F major 7. And C major 7. So since the melody is outlining this note, I want to include it in the harmony as well. But since I can move this down an octave, it's going to give it a more lush kind of sound when I have the closer voicings. And the closest F is going to be here. And in this case, you see we have even more chord. I mean, even more notes in the chord. So we have the 7th, but we also have this one, which is the 9th. And the 9th basically means that it's one level above the octave, which is the 8th step. So this is the sound of the 9th chord. And you can move this up as well. It's basically just stacking thirds. And it sounds suddenly a lot more jazzy. So in this case, I'm going to re-record this with a bit more of 9th and 7th in these two chords. And just first to demonstrate, like, these flavors are really smart to kind of get to know, and you don't have to use them all the time. Like, I can make an extreme case where I add, like, the 7th and 9th to every single chord, and it will sound something like this. So let's add some of these 7th and maybe 9th here and there just into our harmonies. suddenly it sounds a little bit more warm, and so now all of a sudden we got this. And if you quickly visit my sketch area, you can just listen to what it sounds like as a very, very rough mock-up with these chords. Suddenly sounds a lot more interesting than just the melody alone, and kind of fills out the melody and brings it to where I wanted it to be in the first place, because as I've said before, melody and harmony together make up the whole theme. Hopefully this will show you some basic ways of finding chords for your melodies and actually utilizing some of the 7th chords. I'll see you guys in the next video.